We're now on to the last 5 questions in this section. Question 16 asks, which one of the following is a positive economic statement? A positive economic statement is one that can easily be tested, whereas a normative one is one that is more opinion-based and cannot be tested and is more of a value judgment. So which one of the following is a positive statement? A, the pattern of wealth ownership in the UK is unfair. This is a normative statement because what defines unfair? How much should the rich have in comparison to the poor? So we can't really test this. There are too many poor people in the UK today. That's B, which again cannot be tested. What is the optimal amount of poor people in the UK today? We cannot check. C, the distribution of income is unequal. This can be tested because we can see how much the rich 1% has compared to how much the middle 1% at 49.5 to 50.5, and how much the poorest 1% has. We can see if the distribution in the UK is unequal. We can test this. And so that means that this is a positive economic statement. So the answer is C. We'll just check that D is definitely not a positive economic statement. D, the rich should be taxed more than the poor. This is a normative statement because we cannot test this. Why should they be taxed more? And it's a opinionated statement. 17. The diagram below shows the demand and supply curves for an energy company which sells electricity produced using renewable resources. Which one of the following will shift the market equilibrium from X to Y? So in order for us to move from point X to Y, supply is increasing, it's shifting outwards. This means that firms are more eager to supply more of this to the market. So, is it A, more consumers buying electricity? If this was the case, then demand would actually be shifting outwards, and we're only looking at supply. B, a government subsidy paid to the company. If there's a government subsidy paid to the company, then it would mean that the firm would make an additional income from producing these goods. So it means that they'll be able to supply these goods for less than they were able to before. And this is the right answer because the supply curve is shifting downwards or outwards, which means that firms are more eager to supply more to the market, which moves us from equilibrium X to equilibrium Y. So the answer is B. I'll just go through the other two as well. C, an environmental tax levied on the company. If there was a tax levied on the company, then the firm would be less willing to supply to the market. This would mean that the supply curve would actually shift the other way, which is not what we are seeing. D, an increase in wages of workers in the electricity sector. If wages were increasing, it would make it more expensive for this firm to produce this electricity. This would cause less of an incentive for this firm to supply the goods to the market, which means that the supply curve would shift left or upwards, the other way. And this is not what's happening. So the answer for question 17 is B. Question 18. The basic model of monopoly suggests inefficiency and a misallocation of resources. This could explain by monopolists, A, B, C, or D. When we assume that we have a monopoly, we lose the assumption of perfect competition when we say that both firms and consumers are price takers. Instead, the monopoly is a price setter. It can decide what price it wants to set in the market. A monopolist will choose the price that maximises profit, and this will be higher than in perfect competition. The monopolist will restrict output and charge a higher price. So the answer for this question is D, charging higher prices than in a competitive market. In a competitive market, the prices will be lower and the quantities will be higher, but the monopoly is abusing its power, which allows them to restrict output and which in turn raises the price. Question 19. The table below shows the world beer market share by volume by Brewers Company. From the data in the table, what is the 8 firm concentration ratio? So So we've got them in order. So we see that A, B, InBev has the largest market share of 22, and as we move down, the market shares fall until we move to other, which are smaller brewing firms, which have a combined market share of 36. We are asked to find the 8 firm concentration ratio. The 8 firm concentration ratio is found by adding the biggest 8 firms out market share together. So we add AB InBev to SAB Miller to Heineken to Carlsberg to Molson Coors to Grupo Modelo to Tsingtao to Beijing Yangjing, which gives us our top 8 firms. So 22 plus 13 plus 9 plus 7 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 2, and this gives us a value of 62%. So the answer is C. Now we're on to our final question, question 20. In the table below, all things being equal, which combinations of the following, A, B, C or D, is most likely to enable a firm in a competitive market to increase its market share? So we have the price elasticity of demand of a firm's product, we have the firm's degree of product differentiation, firm's long run average costs subject to, and then we have these. So first, it's easiest to look at a firm's long run average costs. So are they subject to economies of scale or diseconomies of scale? So we're looking at what would need to happen for a firm in a competitive market to increase its market share. If there's diseconomies of scale, as this firm is increasing its output, the cost of producing each unit increases. So this would be less of an incentive, or it would be harder for a firm that had diseconomies of scale to increase its market share. So we can get rid of the 2 options, which are A and B, with diseconomies of scale. Whereas economies of scale, as this firm gets larger, the average total cost falls for each unit. So that means that it's cheaper for this firm to produce the good, which as they can charge a lower price, they can sell more, so it will increase their market share. Now we can look at a firm's degree of product differentiation. If the goods are homogeneous, then it means that it's hard for firms to differentiate their products. So the goods are the same, so the consumer will not care where they buy from, because a good from supplier A will be exactly the same as a good from supplier B. Whereas if there's a high degree of product differentiation, consumers will prefer to consume from their preferred option rather than consuming from another one. So it gives them the firm some sort of market power. So if they can increase the degree of their product differentiation and align it more with the preferences of individuals, then they can increase their sales. Also, as their new product is quite differentiated to others, it means that more firms will stick with this firm, which will mean that they could more consumers will buy from this firm rather than switching to other firms. So this will mean that the price elasticity of demand for the firm's product would actually be quite high, because they really, really prefer to consume this product rather than consuming another one somewhere else, because it is quite different, because the products are differentiated. So that means that the answer is C. So we reject D from that one. And that makes sense, because I've just said that price elasticity of demand for the product will be high. And that concludes the multiple choice.